Hello, everyone.
Morning.
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 All right. All right, it is 10:01. I think an effort of time, since it's 10:01, I hope you guys all don't mind. I am going to facilitate the meeting. I do have this being recorded so everyone knows. Just so we can share it, and also so we can go back and I can take some notes. I do have one of my staff members also on, so that she can also help us take notes so that we can just for educational purposes and stuff like that, so that we can learn from it. So we can, if there's any good questions or anything, we can do a write-up afterwards. And I'll share it with everyone as well that's here before we write it up, so that we can all be in consensus of this is what was, this is what we learned from it. So I wanted to stick to our kind of like agenda that we had kind of discussed, not discussed, what I sent out, and just do a quick introduction and just like your name and who you are. So, and of course I have one too many tabs up, and I will start. And my name is, I'm Kim Walters, and I am Ottawa County, and I am the supervisor of the environmental sustainability team. And we'll do popcorn style, I guess, just so that we're not having that awkward silence. And I will popcorn over to Phil Roycraft.
Oh, sure. Hi, I'm Phil Roycraft. I'm the Acting Assistant Division Director for MMD. And I will kick it to Tracy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tracy Cascametti. I'm the Acting Division Director for Materials Management Division. Nice to be here. Thanks for organizing, Kim. Emily?
Hi, I'm Emily Freeman. I'm the Recycling Unit Manager in EGLE's Sustainability section. And I'll hand it over to Christina.
Hi, Christina Miller, Materials Management Planning Specialist. I should know everybody, but I'll tag Jeff. I see Jeff Spencer's on.
Yeah, good morning. Sorry I'm not on camera. I'm having some technical difficulties this morning, but Jeff Spencer, I'm the manager of our sustainability section. And I'll move it over to, how about Whitney?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Whitney Callio with Oakland County Economic Development. So I am the DPA for Oakland County, and I will send it over to Christopher.
Not used to being called Christopher, but I'll go with it. Chris Cloyne, Saginaw County Health Department, Environmental Health Division, EH Director. We are the DPA for Saginaw. I will pass the baton to Larry.
Larry Johnson, County Health Director, Shiawassee County Health Department. We're the DPA for Shiawassee County. I'll pass the baton to, I don't know who hasn't gone yet, Julie.
Yeah, I was going to say, sorry, I had to jump from another meeting. Morning, everybody. Julie Staveland. I'm the Assistant Division Director for the Materials Management Division under Tracy. I think that's everybody, I'm going to guess. No? Okay. Whoever hasn't gone yet, then volunteer.
I'll go.
Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Sorry.
I'm Matt McPherson. I'm the communications manager for Kent County Department of Public Works. We're the DPA for the county. And yeah.
Okay. I am Isha Pitwa with NetWest Northwest. We cover 10 counties from Emmett to Misaki to Mancy on the other side. And we do have multiple staff members, mainly Matthew Cook helping us out with materials management. And we have a couple different staff members helping out with a few other counties. So I'm just new to the process and I'm happy to be here.
All right, and we just had Rachel join us, and if Rachel wants to tell us who she is and who she represents, that would be helpful.
Rachel Grover, Kalamazoo County DPA, Planning and Development Department.
Okay. And Trista works with me at Ottawa County. She's helping us by taking some notes for us.
And
Ryan,
I haven't
thank you.
gone. Yeah.
Oh, Ryan, we're gonna fight
Okay.
over it.
Yeah. Ryan Carrick with Central Upper Peninsula Planning and Development, DPA for the 6 counties of the Central UP.
Thinking, am I frozen?
Is that everyone? Okay.
It sounded like there was someone. Is it Jennifer?
It is
Yeah,
Jennifer.
sorry. Oh, yeah. My network froze for a second there, I think. Jennifer Neal, Eastern Upper Peninsula Regional Planning, Mackinac, Chippewa, and Luce counties. And I'm a senior planner with the Regional Planning Agency.
Perfect. All right.
Well, I really appreciate all those intros. I think I'm probably one of the ones that knows the least of the county representatives. So thank you. That was helpful for me. And Kim, thanks again for sending the questions ahead of time and for organizing this group. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And I do apologize. I wasn't able to get them out sooner. I had tried, but you know, I wanted to get the questions out a lot sooner, but it's hard to get them compacted in a format that was in a way that made sense. And I was,
Understood.
Yeah. So, and yeah, so there's a lot of questions and I was, So yeah, I'm sorry that I didn't get them out sooner. So at least getting them ahead of time. And so at least discussion. And like I said, and part of what I wanted to say ahead of time is, you know, the goal of this meeting is to try to make them as productive and, you know, and I want to say, I don't expect all the answers now, you know, but the idea and the hopes from this meeting is to have it to be productive for both for EGLE and for us DPAs, and to at least start something and start having some questions, you know, flowing is what, you know, my intention was. Kind of leading into like the, you know, the next part of what I wanted to do was kind of like the opener, you know, kind of, I'll start with the opener kind of part of, you know, what are our goals and intentions. I thought it was a good way to, you know, start with our opener. I'm not a big icebreaker kind of person. I think a lot of them are kind of cheesy, but I thought this was a good way to kind of set this meeting is like kind of like the goals and intentions. So we all kind of see how we're interpreting MMPs, because I think some people have very high expectations for what it can be, and some people are just confused about it. So maybe goals and intention setting, and some of it is where it is. So my intention for this meeting, at least, is just to see where we all are, get some intentions out there. And I just want to get the ball rolling, essentially, and see where we all are and where some confusions lie, where some questions are, and see where we can meet you and see how we can help you and where we can meet and how we can maybe get some questions answered where confusions lie. And maybe there's some little things that we can, maybe there's stuff out there that are just out there that we just don't know about, or yeah. So my intentions and goals, and my goal is just get clarity. My intentions for the plan is to try to really serve my population and get what they want. So, and then I will, this time I'll just let, if anyone else wants to start, they can start. So, like I said, this time let's have EGLE go first. And yeah, if anyone from EGLE wants to go first with their intentions and goals for the plan in this meeting.
Sure, I'll start for EGLE, Kim. Thank you. So first, again, I appreciate you organizing and bringing so many people together. I know it took probably longer than any of us would like to get together, but I'm glad we're here now. You know, we spent some time with your questions yesterday and going over them. So thank you again for sending those. You know, there's a lot of content here, right? And I think our intention for today is to hear from all of you, right? I think we could probably spend this next hour and a half on, you know, one or two of these questions if we really wanted to get into the meat of it, right? I mean, so I don't know that we can provide detailed answers on all of these things today. And I know you represented in your document even, right, that wasn't the expectation. So, you know, what we'd like to do is take this conversation and help it and use it to help guide us as to what additional, you know, guidance and resources are needed out in the counties and the local governments. You know, I know Emily's team has a number of webinars planned. They have, you know, written guidance in the works. They're continuing always to update their FAQ and their website. And so if we hear from you guys on which of these topics are really, you know, the most time critical, where do you need more detail, that will really help inform, you know, the guidance and work that those folks are doing, and what format is most helpful to you guys, right? Is it access to folks? Is it people at your meetings? Is it stuff on the website? Is it a mixture? Is it webinar? You know, what topics and what delivery would be the most useful? So our intention today is to hear from all of you and to take it to heart and, you know, use it to help inform our process moving forward. I'll leave it to Emily or Christina to talk more about, you know, our intention, you know, as in terms of what we're trying to accomplish with planning, right? But in terms of meeting for today, that's what I would like to get out of it. So Emily, can I turn it over to you?
Yeah, sure. You know, I'd echo what Tracy has to say. We're here to mainly listen to you all and what your questions are and what types of things that you want to talk about. Yeah, intentions overall for planning. This is obviously the opportunity. Many of you have spent years and years and years sort of yearning for this opportunity, right? That planning represents. Hoping for a day that would come when basically everyone's forced to listen to us. But, you know, I want to say that I really respect the fact that there's decades of experience in planning here in this meeting. You all represent folks that are, you know, really capable professionals who've been working on this for years. And this is an opportunity, I think, for you to bring folks, we're hoping to bring folks together around a table in your communities and talk about what are the goals for your areas and your communities, and how do you want to get there? And so to the extent that we can help you make those productive conversations, we want to do that. And I'm really excited to see what comes out of it. I think, especially with folks that are as experienced as you guys, I think the plans that we're going to see on the other side are going to be really good, you know, useful documents that help your communities get to where they want to go. Anyone else want to talk about something?
I think I would, if it's all right, Kim, I would prefer, you know, I mean, we've got lots of folks from EGLE here, right, that are involved at different levels, but I would prefer to spend more of the time hearing from you guys. So I'm not trying to shut anyone down from my team. So if anyone's got anything extra to add, but Kim, I'd prefer to hear from you and the DPAs. So if you want to get into the heart of the questions, if you guys have decided, hey, there's a couple things here you really want to make sure you get out of today in terms of content, or if you just want to, you know, start at the top. I don't know how you want to handle the questions that were provided, but we'll leave it to you.
Yeah, so this is, I want to make intentions. So I designed to have this, so we all set our intentions. So, and goals for this meeting. So the reason why I did this first is essentially it gives a little of like, because once we get into the questions, it could get heated. So I want to set intentions first so that we all have essentially a level playing, you know. So if we all set intentions, we can have something to go back to, like, hey, we all have, it's strategic. So essentially is what I'm getting at. So we all have good intentions and goals is what I'm trying to set, to be honest. So that's why.
Sure.
And then I only have a small window set for this. So I have it, I'm being strategic, essentially. I've talked to someone preliminarily about this. So I'm not trying to say we're all spend hours on this. We only have a small window for this. So I'm being strategic is what I'm saying. So
sure.
If
did you want to hear from the rest of the EGLE team, or would you like
we're going to hear from everyone. Yes, I want to hear from
Okay.
everyone from EGLE, and we're going to go to everyone else as well. So yes. So if we want to go to Christina next, then I will popcorn to everyone. Then I will just pick people. Christina's next.
Okay.
We don't
thank you.
need long speakers either. It can be even just boom, boom, boom. These are my intentions. Yeah.
So my intention always is to be as helpful as I can to the counties and regions to help develop the plan and figure this stuff out, including today and every day via phone, email, meetings, whatever that looks like. And overall, for the planning process, as many of you are aware, I am very hopeful that we are going to create the systems needed to manage our materials differently, which is what the law is intending us to do, to make sure we're looking at ways to divert recyclables and organics from being landfilled, meeting the benchmark recycling standards, and creating the systems that are needed for your area in particular so that you can achieve those, what makes sense for you. So while the law says that there are requirements, the requirements are in general are designed so that it makes sense for each area because each area is unique, right? So it basically brings you to the table to think about things. So when you're having these meetings to create that plan format, you're having discussions amongst the planning committee to get their input and their expertise, because that makeup was also designed to think differently about how we're managing materials. And then the plan itself is the outcome of those discussions. So the law tells you you need to think about these things. The committee thinks about those. The plan memorializes what's decided. And then you're creating goals and objectives that make sense for you as a group. So that's just my overall, planning elevator speech. But obviously, we're trying to be here and as much as we can as a collaborative, not just me as the planning specialist, but our recycling team and our others out there as much as we can. Thank you.
All right. And Jeff.
Yeah, so I'll certainly mirror all the comments said to this point. And my goal today is to identify what we're doing well, where there are gaps, where I may be able to help direct resources in the future, provide further guidance, just that support mechanism, right? Barriers, challenges, vis-a-vis opportunities for all of us. And that's really my general overview. So thanks for the opportunity though.
Right. Thank you. And then now I'll go to the DPAs. We will start with Chris.
All right. Yeah. So my intentions really here is just to sort of convey the struggles, concerns, difficulties we as DPAs are experiencing through this process, and sort of hopefully give you you folks at EGLE an understanding of what's really going down at the boots level. So that's for me.
And Larry?
Well, my biggest thing is the funding. We're a lot of months into this. We submitted initially for the first reimbursement back in July. It's December, and we're going back and forth and back and forth. What I would like, in interest of disclosure, I have a meeting set up with EGLE financial people on Monday. So hopefully we can get some clarification then, but we've got many grants with EGLE and MDARD and DHHS, and I've never seen anything like this. So perhaps today we could get your guidelines or what you're using to evaluate what we're submitting. And I'll just give you a couple examples from our approved work plan and budget. We budgeted a lump sum amount for the planning committee meeting reimbursement that they get, which is set by our county, okay? And so that amount per individual that serves on the planning committee is $60 per meeting. Well, we didn't break it down in the budget to 60 individually. We broke it down to just what the lump sum was, which was approved. And then they tell us, well, we can't do that. We'll have to amend your budget because you'll have to go on the state per diem rate. I said, what? I don't even know what that is. I mean, so that's one example. Another example is they want a copy of our bank statement proving that we paid our credit card bill, which covered the conference, the Michigan Recycling Conference attendance. And we can't send our bank statements via, even if we're redacting it, that would be an audit finding for us. So the process, and I've talked to Christina at length about this. I mean, we shouldn't be in December waiting for money to come for that we've already expended. I've got a lot of money into Fleiss and Vandenbrink. And so, and I'll just tell you right now, as I've told Christina, we're stone cold stopped in Shiawassee County until we get some funding to reimburse us for work that we've already completed.
Too, Larry, when we get to the question regarding grants and
well, and I'm sorry, but I have to get off.
Setting.
I have to get off at 11, so I can't stay on for the whole meeting. So I wanted to get my point across while we have all of these dignitaries from EGLE on here. So that's kind of where we're at. And we're also in a conservative county. Christina knows this. I am getting pushed back to even move anything with recycling because they think that there's going to be a different legislature in 2027, and some of this may not even happen. So you got to help us out at the local level, especially in a conservative county. You know, I'm fighting a lot of headwinds.
Larry,
so that's all I've got to say.
I'm going to mute you if you. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Larry. Yeah, so then, yes, Whitney, if you want to go ahead and set your intentions, because we have only a few more minutes for this part. So, and then we'll go on to question 1.
Okay, yep, sure. I also would like to get a little better understanding about the grant, so that will be good to talk about that. I think just overall hearing what everyone has to say, I feel like I'm excited for this process, but it just feels like we're one step forward, 2 steps back all the time, trying to get, I don't know, it feels like there's so much administrative stuff, and we, like I'm sure most other counties, have lots of bureaucracy. So every single thing is, takes time. And I also want to make sure that the timeline isn't going to be a problem if we're not quite ready with our plan, seeing the delays that we had getting started, or if it just takes longer to have a better plan. I think that's part of the questions. So I'm really just interested to hear the conversation, hear from EGLE, see how we can just partner. And Also, one question I have too, I guess, would be who, if we need an answer to a question in relative short order, who is our best person to go to? Is that our local recycling specialist? Mine is Maddie, who I feel like she's very responsive, but I know statewide Christina's probably getting hundreds of questions all the time. So maybe a little guidance on what the best option would be for that.
Perfect. And then Matt.
Yeah. So Kent County is fortunate enough to already have a pretty robust waste system, but we still are looking for clarification on a handful of questions. So yeah, here to look for clarification on those and to support the other counties as well.
Right. And then Jennifer Neal.
Yeah, hi again. So my intention being here, thank you again to EGLE for being here and everyone from the DPAs. As Tracy said, there's a number of questions and topics. We could spend a lot of time really digging into each. I hope we come up with a communication plan or some sort of, method in the future to address those. I hope we can figure that out today. I'm here sort of representing communities that while we have a recycling system and waste management system, it's not as robust as other communities. And so really figuring out when you say right sizing and making it, fit the communities, for communities that maybe haven't gotten as far in that process, we're really excited to do this, but I think we're really starting at the ground level. And so, recognizing that we might not get as far as other communities. And so what does that look like? And what really are the requirements for this process moving forward?
Perfect. And then the Isha or Isha? Okay.
Hi, everyone. So my intention would be that we have different counties, Antrim and Charlevoix, Manistee, Missaukee, Wexford. So in most of the communities, one thing common that we've been hearing is education part. Everyone is talking about the plan and the grant. That is also very important, but for us in our communities, they are looking for ways to either educate the group itself or the communities in any way possible. What are the things in the grant or in the planning stage that we could help with that, some of these questions? And I'm sure other communities would have the same questions coming in from your groups. And how do you want us to address mainly the grant and help with that? That is also something which I've been looking for into this thing. That'll be my part.
All right. And then I think Rachel.
Yeah, I think echoing what everybody else has said, I'm mostly here to hear. I feel like I get a lot out of this. My question was on the enforcement piece, and I know we won't be able to get to all of that, and that's sort of later in the plan. We're moving slow because I have been taking about 3 months to get somebody hired. Hopefully that will happen in the next month or so. So it's just, I think the understanding of the boots on the ground. I know a lot of our county departments, we have about 10 other things we're doing besides MMP. So that are all priorities, a lot of them state mandated. So I guess just some patience with us, which I think you have been. It's just, I guess, that understanding. So thank you.
All right. Did I miss anyone? Ryan, maybe?
Yeah, my
Okay.
intentions are just to fill gaps in questions. So feels like we have a lot of information, but at some other side of this, there's not enough. I can do, you know, maybe 70% of the work I have with the information that EGLE has given us, but there are things that I don't know that just need answers for, and it's preventing us from developing a good plan.
Well worded. All right. Now we've set our intentions, you know, I think it was really helpful to hear that, at least for me, and from both sides. Now it's to dive in, you know, so I said, you know, about 10 minutes each, you know, we're gonna just kind of ideally, you know, like I said, not expecting all of these to have definitive answers, so I've sent them out. So essentially, biggest, I know a lot of people, all these questions were asked in various different ways. So the first question I wanted to start is, the first one is plan expectations and timelines. In general, what is EGLE's expectations for the materials management plan overall? Additionally, could EGLE speak on the timeline for the plan completion? Some DPAs are concerned that they may not have enough time for the plan completion. Some DPAs are concerned that they may not have enough time remaining to develop a thorough and complete plan. The concern is that plans may need to be submitted incomplete, and some are quickly updated after the timeline, and then, updated after the deadline. This is a sense among some DPAs that the timeline has been thrown out the window. Specifically, they want to know, like, what level of detail is being expected with this deadline situation. Is the deadline still firm, or is it flexible? And what does the timeline feel? Why does it feel so unclear or lost at this point? What does EGLE prefer? Submitting a basic plan on time, or submitting it late with a more thorough and complete plan? We have some clear guidance on expectations and timeline would help DPAs plan their remaining efforts effectively. And that's what we gave you. So we have 10 minutes. I have planned for this. So actually now it's going to be about 8. It's went a little over. So.
Okay, so we can talk about timeline a little bit. I'll just try to give big picture, and then I'll turn it over to Emily and Christina if there's anything you want to add here. You know, the statute provides really clear timelines for going through each stage of this process, with the intention of the end goal being that plans would be complete in July of 2027, right? But the statute also does provide for an extension process. What we've been trying to tell folks all along is we don't want to talk about extensions here in December of 25 when we want folks working diligently toward that deadline, right? But we want you to be developing plans that serve your communities appropriately, right? And so we're not looking for, you know, some sort of incomplete or bare bones plan to be submitted to check a box if that's not the plan that your communities want to develop, right? And that's not the plan that serves you. So, you know, our request is that folks continue diligently moving down this path towards, you know, the intention of meeting July of 27. And if we get, you know, closer to that date and we need to consider extensions, we'll consider those extensions, right? Different regions and different counties are going to be in different situations there. Emily, is there anything more you want to say on timing?
Nope, I think you covered it really well.
I'm not sure we can really speak to, some of the questions on, like, you know, why does the timeline feel unclear? I'm not sure why it might feel unclear to some folks. Maybe because people are at different points of the process, right? They have different communities. I suspect different counties are moving at a different pace, and they're at different stages, and some are more in the early phase, and some have taken off and are farther down the road. So maybe because folks are in different places, it feels like the timeline is different. But based on the timeline laid out in Part 115, we're looking for, July 2027. But if you can't get there, I mean, there's an extension process in the statute, right? We're not quite ready to throw the timeline out the window just yet, right? We want everyone working diligently toward July 27. We want you guys telling your folks that are involved, no, hey, EGLE really wants this July 27, so that you keep working toward it. But I mean, there's an extension process there.
Okay. And looks like Chris has his hand up.
I wasn't the first one to hand up, unless someone else. I saw the hand up go up before me, but he might have put it in comments instead.
I think you're the only one I saw. So.
All right. So Tracy, to your comment about not talking about extensions, it is the time to talk about extensions. If plans, at least initial drafts of plans, are due in about 5 months to maintain the timeline, we're not going to have a complete draft ready. We're just doing goal setting right now, facilitated goal setting for the next 2 months. There's no way in the world we're going to meet the timeline. If we got to have a draft plan ready by June-ish to start presenting to our Board of Commissioners and then all our townships to meet the July deadline of 2027.
I appreciate that, Chris. So one thing about the timelines that are laid out in the statute is it provides for, a maximum amount of time for a lot of these steps. Not every county will use all of that time, right? And so, you may find that you move through, there's like a window for public notice that is a minimum amount of time, right? But there's some of these other time frames, can be compressed if that works for your community, right? And so if, it's one thing, you may be anticipating right now, geez, we're not going to meet July 2027 because I got to work through all these steps, and that's okay, right? But we don't necessarily have to grant that approval right now because you don't know how much extra time you need, right? I'm just gonna be clear with you guys. I don't see a scenario in which we are working with counties that are working diligently on this process and we say no to your extensions, right? I think why you might catch us being a little reserved on this is, if there are counties out there not making a diligent effort toward this timeline, we can't just keep kicking that timeline out into the future, right? We might have to take an alternative path there. But I don't see any scenario in which folks like you that are working diligently on this and trying to guide your communities through this are going to be caught come, May of 27 with EGLE saying, oh no, we fully expect this in 30, 60 days, right? So we might not be ready to issue extensions right now, because we would like you out in your communities really pushing this, moving this forward. But I don't see this being a sticking point. I don't know. Emily, real quick, Rachel, before I see your hand for sure, yeah. But I will always fall back on Emily and Christina to correct me.
You got it.
Like the details.
I'd have jumped in or made a face.
Yeah, cut me off. Make a face when I get it wrong.
Nope.
We're gonna jump to Rachel and then we will go to the next question.
Oh, you're muted, Rachel, sir.
Yep.
Thank you. I just have a recommendation on that, what we're starting to think about, and something we've used in the past, partly because we had an amendment that we had to do shortly before the change in the legislation. So we're kind of practiced, our county is, but we're looking at, instead of going to each individual community separately or doing this separately, having a super presentation with several of our communities so that we don't have to have this very long drawn out process. I just wanted to make that recommendation. I know that may not work for everybody, but it's something that has been used in the past here, and we're trying to have that really truncated.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And that's, I know you guys meet, and we're there every time too. There's these DPA meetings, right, where you all basically bring your own, problem forward. And then usually it seems like someone like Rachel raises their hand and says, well, actually, I've got this idea that other people are like, yeah, actually, we've done that and that works for us. So I don't know if that's maybe something that you would want to bring forward at one of the DPA meetings. But I do notice that you guys are doing it. I want to say I've been really impressed at how all of you folks are working together to share your expertise with each other. And Rachel, that was a great example of that.
Yeah, and maybe that's something too, we can bring each of these questions and hopefully maybe we can have, maybe make these questions into something and have EGLE help us, may host it, but, and maybe we can have side chats too in the questions. So like Whitney, we have to move on. But if you want to post your question in the side and if EGLE can add on, hopefully like on the chat, maybe answer them too, so that we can keep this the meeting going too. That would also be helpful, please. But I'm going to move on to the next question. But if Whitney wants to put her question in the chat on the side, that'd be helpful. So the next question is going to be DPAs have raised various questions and concerns regarding the grant reimbursement process. Some have experienced significant delays in receiving reimbursements, which have multiple impacts. Planning efforts have been slowed, relating programs have affected, and in some cases caused doubts in the process, leading to questions in the MMP and why are we doing it? Could EGLE provide clarity on the following? Why is the process taking longer and why does it differ from other EGLE grants such as beach sampling? What is the expected payment scheduling after FSR is submitted? 30 days, 60 days, etc. The grant packet states each year a county must submit a 1-year work program. When are DPAs expected to apply a grant cycle? For future grant cycles, when would EGLE consider moving, and would EGLE move the Q4 FSR deadline to mid to late November to align with other state grants? If estimated report is submitted by the initial deadline, when is the final FSR due? So very detailed questions as well. So there you go. But you had it in front of you, so it makes me a little bit easier.
I'd like to turn this over to Emily, or Emily, if you or Jeff or Julie want to give like overview on grant process and how much of it is within our control and how much of it isn't. And recognizing that, certain counties are having like really specific struggles and like what the best way is to get that resolved.
Yeah, I'll take that. I think, and many of you have been on the call here, have been party to our grants over the years. So what I'm saying, and many other grants as well. So what I'm saying is maybe not going to shock you, but I've just fully acknowledged that anytime that you're talking about public funds using public taxpayer dollars, there's going to be a fair level of responsibility in terms of transparency and how those funds are being used and checks in the system, right? That's just sort of the, there's pros and cons of every funding opportunity, every different type of funding, and public dollars, public taxpayer dollars do come, with a fair amount of oversight on them, just generally speaking. I think, this is a pretty common question we get. Why is this grant different from all, other grants that we've had? I think it's, the beach sampling grant is a great example. That's actually, I believe that's a federal grant and EGLE's actually the grantee. And that means you're like a subcontractor on that. So that's a great example of one of the reasons why different grants can differ is there's different funding sources and different requirements. But we definitely have certain requirements that are handed down to us from both legislative and our executive level budget and accounting folks. And we don't really have the ability to change those, and nor would we really imply that we want to, because, the oversight is important and it's there for a reason. But that being said, everybody is going to have their unique thing, you know what I mean? Their unique thing that they've got a question about on their grant. And we've got folks behind the scenes, myself, Christina, we've got 2 grant administration folks that stand ready to help you answer your questions. And I think whichever, if it was Larry or Chris, one of you has a meeting on Monday. Not sure who that's with, but I'll look into it. So everyone's going to have their specific questions, and we're staffed up and ready to help you with that. I think some of the overall, what I'm kind of hearing in these questions is a little bit, I'm hearing about sort of we've all gone through fiscal year end. And I think you've all experienced it with us now. What happens is, along about September, we come to everyone, not just this grant, all of our grantees, and say, hey, look, it's the end of our fiscal year. We need you to get us all your receipts or an estimate of what you've spent so that we can get that into the accountants so they can close the books out. And while the accountants are closing the books out, they can't process anything new. So get your stuff into us now, because there's going to be a space of time from about October through mid-November-ish where we can't process anything new. So I think I'm catching a little bit of that angst. You know, I know it's frustrating. Year-end closeout happens. I'm guessing at the county level too, you may experience some year-end closing type of activities like that. I did hear, you know, how long can it take to get a reimbursement? We are back processing those again. Our administrative, our accountants have cleared out year end, and we're back in business in terms of processing those again. I'm starting to see those come through again. From the time that you submit something and from the time you submit something that has, that's complete, goes through us and our finance folks. And it kind of varies based on workload, but I think 30 days it's probably approximately what we see. I don't want to promise anything because, of course, the last 2 weeks in December, you're missing some key people, things are going to take longer, or there might be, other things like that change the timeline. But if you get a hold of us and say, hey, I'm really worried about this reimbursement. Can you check it over? Does it look okay? I'm needing it really fast. We can walk through it with you. We have 2 grant administrative staffers who are happy to walk through things with you. It will definitely go faster, right? If you have someone say like, oh, wait, no, you need the front and the back of the check, right? And you've only got the front or something like that. So if you want us to look it over before you submit it, we definitely can do that. And then the other question, I think I don't have them right in front of me. So if I didn't get them all at the end of this, let me know. The other question is, okay, FY26 funding. I think we're hearing FY26 funding. We're definitely in the process of starting to get those, probably you might have heard about this, but it was a little bit of a rocky road to get that FY26 budget signed, but we've got it. And so now we are in the process of getting, basically all the departments have to get the various permissions, like you can't just roll $9 million out the door without, some oversight. So we're definitely in the process of moving those requests up through our exec folks. And we'll be communicating, once we get that permission, we'll be communicating with you folks about how to go about getting that FY26 funding added to your grant. Yeah, good point, Larry. Yes, that's an excellent point that you raised, Larry. Some folks who've been around the block long enough realize that, yes, we do get our funding appropriated in 1-year increments. So this is the FY26 budget year that we're in. I realize it's only 2025, but and then this time next year, we'll be having this conversation all over again on FY27. I think, did I get all the questions, or is there one that I missed in there?
I think you did, and this would definitely be, I guess the biggest thing is I think we should move on to this one, and I think this would be only because I think this should be touched on one of the other questions that that's talked about later about the sessions. I think you should do more on this one, and the fact that there's a lot of questions on this. Like I had the person that assists the county with this, with all of our grants for public health and including environmental health. Our EGLE grant is the only EGLE grant that does it as complicated as ours, not just beach watch. I just threw that one in there, beach sampling, as one of them, but we have other environmental health. Yeah, we're the only one that does that. Like, you're the only one that requires is pre-auditing is the term that they used. We're the only one. And they listed a couple other EGLE grants, but I don't want to ruin from the other questions. And I think that you should have, I believe, not just a webinar, but I think there should be I think EGLE should really do a grant very soon. This is a suggestion, is very grant specific Q&A. But other than that,
so what I'm hearing, that's a great idea. I'm writing it down, Kim.
Yeah.
I love it. So you're thinking more information about how to be a good grantee, like how to do this, more information about grant administration stuff. And you're saying that for you, written documentation, a procedure document is something that you find really helpful.
The only reason why I knew exactly what to do is because I had done one of your grants before. Because I had done an e-waste grant.
So we have, just so everybody remembers, there is an actual onboarding video that explains how the process works, and an actual example FSR resources, or what the requirements are, that actually shows what type of documentation and why, and for each of the components of the various grants. So we do have that. I mean, obviously I understand, and we have added a few Q&As directly for grants in the FAQ, mainly about the next round, not specifics, because we have that onboarding video. And
I know, Christina, I'm going to try to stay on task though. You put it in the link and I see it on the side.
Yep.
I'm trying to help everyone. I'm a terrible facilitator. I want to stay on task. It's on the side links. I saw that too, and you did a great job on it. And it's really easy to get the documentations from me as my county, but it may not be for everyone's county. That's the biggest thing. Some counties it may be easier and maybe harder for other counties, and that I don't know. So, but we're gonna go on because we have lots of questions in a short amount of time. And now I've already lost what questions we're on. I think that was only number 2. We're gonna go to number 3 in an effort to try to get through these. Could EGLE provide clarification on what constitutes a material management facility? Specifically, a guidance on the following that would help. A clear definition and example of what qualifies as a materials management facility, and how different types of facilities, recycling centers, composting operations, transfer stations, waste diversion centers, etc., are categorized. What requirements apply to each type of facilities under Part 115? Specific clarifications on waste diversion centers, including how to avoid duplicate data reporting when materials pass through multiple facilities. Household hazardous waste, HHW, collection sites and their classifications, drop-off sites and their reporting requirements. Should the MMP only list facilities that meet legislative requirements based on types, quality, and materials on site? Or is there value in also listing facilities that are not required by statute, but could serve as resources for communities? Would include non-required facilities cause confusion between regulated and non-regulated facilities? I said, and then this is where I noted, given the level of details involved, we would also welcome a written documentations on the topic if that would be better. So this one, I'm assuming we can really kind of like short and just do a quick little overview. And I already see that Ryan also has his hand up. So after EGLE, we'll let Ryan go first.
Kim, would it be okay if we heard from Ryan first? Because I'm wondering
Yep.
if there's more context here that would help us give an answer
Yeah.
that's the most helpful today.
Yeah.
Sure. So as an example of a difficulty, right? We know that there are materials management facilities listed in the law. Go on the EGLE website to the facilities database, and they are not listed by the types of facilities that are outlined in the law. Specifically, if I go and look for a transfer station, I don't know what type of transfer station. I don't know what type of compost facility. I don't know what type based on the standards in Part 115. There's a discrepancy between the reported facilities on the EGLE website, on the facilities map, and the facility descriptions that are available on the website. There are facilities that are not reported and facilities that I had no idea were going to report that even existed in our area. Thirdly, abandoned facilities. We have at least 3 in our region that have not been active for 5 years. These are still marked as active accepting facilities in your database. And how should we report those in their capacities? That's even though they exist, they could be reopened, but they're not likely to.
Yeah. So Ryan, you're scratching on something that's been really complicated for us, right? And part of it is, Part 115, in addition to setting off this whole planning process, right, brought in a whole different group of materials management facilities to be regulated that were not regulated before. And it introduced, maybe what some of us might think is an overly complex framework for how they get categorized and how they get, permitted or authorized. And the reality is we don't know all of that, right? I mean, it's relying on the facilities to tell us, what are they processing? How much are they processing? How are they processing it? And for us to figure out how it falls in that framework, right? Like just as an example, there's this sort of weird quirk in the law where something can't be both a transfer station and a MRF, right? But you've got a facility that's doing both things, right? They've got a transfer building, they've got a MRF building, right? Well, that whole property is going to be permitted as a transfer station. It doesn't mean they're not a MRF for your purposes, right? So I'm probably not the best person to give you the cleanest answer on this, but what I would, my big picture overview would be that for your planning purposes, I don't think you guys have to worry a ton about what regulatory box different facilities fall in. Like, I think I'd encourage you to focus more on how those facilities serve your community, right? Christina, I'm sure you're cringing at the way I'm explaining this, so I'll turn this over to you to give more detail. And Kim, I get your point. Like, you only want to spend a few minutes on this. This is really in the weeds stuff. But Christina, like, what's the high level that you want folks to know today versus what we can get into in better guidance?
Yeah, I think that definitely doing some write up for some of this would be beneficial. I did just put in the chat, your facility infrastructure for all the types of facilities. We envisioned you would identify the facility name, so Miller facility, and then you would authorize by what level of authorization am I? Am an authorized landfill or authorized processing and transfer station, because that's higher. That's the higher level, whatever highest level that facilities authorized, meaning it's permitted and licensed, general permit, registration, whatever that is. And then I would recommend to then identify what they do there. Like Tracy mentioned, what types of materials do they collect? If it's, and I gave the example, they solid waste processing, they collect, transfer facility, they collect solid waste and recyclables. I list them that, do a checkbox, do it a table form, or whatever it looks like for your facility infrastructure. So you can just have the facility named once and list what they do. And then that's how I would recommend doing that. And then I know you get into capacity later on, which we could talk about. Again, we could probably spend an hour talking about that as well. So I do see the need for additional guidance for this. Is just, I think one of the things that we didn't really say, I didn't say it, but it would be nice to know how you want to get the guidance, because it does take a lot of time on our end to get some information sheets, written guidance to you folks. So like, is there a better means to do this? I mean, we could give you point by point answers to some of these questions you asked, but I do think that, and maybe that's all we do is we work on doing that. And if that's sufficient, then we can do that as well. But I guess that's up to you.
Yeah. And maybe that's part of our wrap up. We can talk about maybe how best we can handle each question too better. All right, so let's go on to the next question. But yeah, I definitely think that's more of a write-up. Might be the best way to kind of look at that one. But all right, so number 5, EGLE database access and facility evaluation under Part 115. Could EGLE provide detailed information about what they are responsible for providing to CAAs and DPAs under Part 115? Specifically, when will DPAs have access to the database of material management facilities and their reporting information? And will there be training provided? Also, how can DPAs access the information on behalf of CAAs? I'm not gonna do the MCL. And can DPAs access the information on behalf, and what is the process EGLE uses to evaluate material utilization facilities, and how could we be included in the MMP? If this information has already been provided and these questions are being raised again, and see this as an opportunity to identify any communication gaps and work together to ensure the information is being reached to all DPAs. So yes, can we access the database essentially?
So, like I mentioned, when we were talking about facility types, right? A lot of these recycling facilities are just now coming under regulation for the first time, right? And so we've got these 2 different reporting structures that exist for recycling facilities, and you guys might know this already, but it helps me to lay it out. So we had a recycling reporting law that applied to a given universe of recycling facilities, but then provided that that information was exempt from disclosure, right? And so then under the Part 115 amendments, we said, okay, these types of facilities are now regulated, and the biggest thing we want out of them, in addition to operating well, is reporting, right? And the overlap of those 2 universes is a little strange, right? Like some fall in one bucket, some fall in the other bucket, and there's some gaps for sure. But for the facilities that just became mandatory reporters, they have only now reported for the first time as of November 15th. So that's the data that we've just started to collect, and we'll be able to sort of freely share without having to like really scrub it. And it's our expectation to post all of that information on our website in January. I think, it requires some level of digging through it and a little bit of kind of QA work. Emily, I'm not sure if you've got a sense of what needs to be done to look at that, to put it in a usable format. We do have a database or data system that all these facilities are reporting on, and we've tried to evaluate different ways that we could just get you guys access to it. But ultimately, it seems like the easiest thing is going to be for us to export that data and just post it online. I expect a few years down the road, we'll be in a different situation because we're in the middle of like a modernization process for our website or for our data system. And it's just happening at a bad time given what you guys need in terms of data. So the easiest thing we can do is post it online. I think it's going to be like Excel spreadsheets. So I don't know if that covers the level of detail you want for today. Emily or Jeff, is there anything more you guys want to say on data sharing?
No, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head, and you can hear it a little bit in the grant angst. I mean, just in terms of picture where if you in terms of the tools that are at our disposal, we're like in the year 2000, right? We're doing stuff by email. We got spreadsheets, you know what I mean? Like, we're eventually going to catch up, but then, obviously then we'll be 10, 20 years behind wherever the rest of the industry is. But yeah, I to Tracy's point, we do have a grant management software coming. We do have this new data, you know, portal, like database sharing tool coming our way. But for now, we're kind of stuck with email and Excel spreadsheets, but we're going to get there, right? The gears grind slowly, but they grind fine. So yeah, I would say when people approach me and say, I really want to see that, you know, the 115 data from XMRF, I say, okay, my advice is to send an email to Rhonda Oyer or Carly Money, or, you know, I say Rhonda Oyer because she's the boss of these two people, who would, you know, send a note to Rhonda Oyer and say, hey, can I please have the information from this SMRF? If you have a specific request. We are going to try to get, I guess, some spreadsheets out online, but, you know, if you have a specific request right now, just like ask us for it, and we'll try to get the information for you.
Yeah, and I know that's not, you know, that's probably not as clean of a process, right? And you know, part of it is we are not the holders of all of the information, right? I mean, there's a lot that hasn't been reported. There might be information that you guys can get to that we don't have, but certainly anything we have that we're allowed to disclose, we're going to disclose, right? So you know, it's our intention to download everything we have and get it out. I mean, January is going to come fast, but probably not fast enough. But like Emily said, if there's like something really specific, don't hesitate to reach out and say, like, I just need data on this one facility, and we'll tell you if we've got it or not. You know, it shouldn't take 83 counties contacting us individually to ask for that, right? Which is why we're going to put it online. But if you need something in the meantime, that'll work.
Okay. After time, we're going to go to the next one, since the next three are somewhat related. So, materials reporting and capacity requirements under Part 115. Could EGLE provide guidance on material reporting and capacity requirements? And by the way, those are online. If you guys want to ask questions, put your hand up or speak up, so I don't skip if anyone has questions. Could EGLE provide guidance on materials reporting and capacity requirements? Specifically, include only basic recycling and organics, or does it include diversion materials, managed materials? Could EGLE provide a formula for each estimating of these materials? And is the materials generation tool intended for these purposes? And then it quotes the MCL. And then how could DPAs calculate and demonstrate that there's enough capacity to handle managed materials? What is the definition of capacity for material management facilities, since capacity for recyclables and organics is different than landfill capacity? And how should this be shown in the MMP, especially if it could impact the siting of new facilities? And then again, the MCLs. And then Part 115 requires material utilization facilities, including MRFs, to register and report annually through ReTrack. Since MRFs will be collecting data and include counties of origin, why can't we use this data be shared with DPAs prior to the plan enacting? This data could serve as a baseline, allowing DPAs to calculate county diversion rates before the MMPs take effect and measure the impacts of their goals and track progress over time. Mouthfuls. Thanks for bearing with me reading that out loud.
Yeah, no, that's helpful to have it, mainly because I don't have it in front of me, so I can look at your faces. You know, I would kind of start this off with just a reminder that this is like, these are not EGLE's plans. The goal of this isn't to get an A+ gold star from EGLE, right? The goal of this is to sit down as a group and say, hey, what do we think what's being generated in our area? And what's being diverted, and where are the gaps? You will not be able to get this exact This is going, we cannot get it exact. We are using the information that we can get our hands on, as well as some type of modeling, something that makes sense, right, to us, to kind of put together some estimates that are more and less somehow accurate, right? So like you got to sit down amongst yourselves, amongst the, whatever, if you're an area or a county, like what are we doing here, right? Okay, what's being generated? Where? Is there any data we can get our hands on? Are there some models? I think you cited one. There's some generation models. Okay, cool. What are we diverting? Okay, maybe we can get the information from the MRF here, or oh, I know the operator here, or well, what can we get our hands on, in terms of our diversion estimate, and what are the gaps? Okay, which of these gaps do we as a community want to work on, and what are the steps we're going to take to get there? So I just want to sort of lay that out in the beginning here, that so we don't kind of lose sight of like what is the point of all this, right? Did that answer? Hopefully that answered some of your questions. I think there are a lot of specific questions of how do I specifically calculate this in the way that EGLE wants us to. And so it's like just a reminder that what EGLE wants you to do is do something that makes sense for you guys and is meaningful for you guys. If they're
I think it does, but it doesn't. I think the problem is that no one knows what they're doing. No one has an idea how to calculate something. So,
but you guys are smart people who've been doing this a long time. I know you can figure it out. So there are requirements, like if you wanna know how to calculate a recycling rate, or anything rate, you're basically looking at part over whole. It's a division problem, right? So like part over whole. You're gonna wind up having to estimate both sides of that fraction. And we do as well, right? So there's not like this isn't a gotcha moment.
Ask this question. Go ahead,
I think
Theo.
this is one where I'm kind of
Theo.
on the in-between of, I think it would have been helpful if EGLE at the beginning of this would have provided like a proposed rate, but at the same time, like I talked with Jeff about this, and it is a numerator over denominator, and you have to figure it out what you want to count as your recycling rate. I think it would be helpful for individual groups to get together and say, like Whitney and I, we should probably get back to this and say, how are you calculating this? What are you including or not including? Because like everyone should be including what goes into their MRF. Where they actually get that data is probably going to be hard and tedious, and even trying to estimate business or multifamily is going to be really challenging. But different counties are different, and they're going to include different things. So I understand we just have some different populations. But if you wanted to use asphalt as a recycled material, like feasibly you could do that, and your recycling rate would be amazing, right?
Yep.
Like, so it's
you could.
it does feel like
We
they're
choose
not going to be
do it.
comparable.
Yes, and I think Theo, you hit the nail on the head as to why we're not saying these are absolutely the material streams that you all have to use to calculate this. Because some communities, Whitney and Theo are going to get together, and they're going to be talking about commercial recycling and multifamily recycling, and having these and like jokes about including asphalt in there, and that is absolutely not where some other communities are, right? And that would be ludicrous of us to ask everyone to be at that level. I think someone from where, I don't know if she's still on here. Oh, Isha from Networks Northwest was kind of alluding, or maybe it was Jen from Q. Now don't force me to say where all of you are from, but are talking about the fact that like, hey, some folks are just starting from very different places. And so that's why I know there's some folks who would have loved for us to be uber prescriptive on this, because that obviously is, that would have made it easier to be check. But that would have been way harder for some people who are starting from a different spot.
So can I
respond? Can we have Matt who raised his hand real quick, and then whoever just spoke up, put your hand up too, and then from there we'll ask. I'm gonna go back to number 4 quick because I think that's an important one we missed, and then we'll go from there. But so if Matt wants to go, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and I think you may have kind of just answered it, Emily, but so for Kent counties, we've been mostly focusing on residential all year. And then in our last meeting, kind of started discussing adding in commercial to our recycling rate, which confused everybody. Everyone was unsure if EGLE counts commercial in state recycling rate. So it sounds like we can kind of choose whether to include that or not. Like we could only focus on getting that residential number.
And that could maybe be a goal of yours as in your plan, like, hey, we all decided we really actually do want to get a better handle on what the flow of that commercial material is. And so our goal is to work on that over the years. At the state level, we had that same goal. Man, we'd really love to have a handle on the flow of commercial material. But as you pointed out, there are definitely challenges to getting your hands on that number.
Okay, so we don't necessarily need to have a big solid commercial number. We can look just at residential rates.
Yeah, I mean it's up for you guys to decide, like, hey, this is what this is the data that we have right now and can get our hands on. Here's where we think the gaps are, or here's where we'd like to work more. You know,
Right. And then we'll hear
I don't
from
want to step on
Christina.
Christina here.
Yeah, no, let's hear from Christina.
Yeah, so just in general, so in your plan, you're only required to identify your MSW recycling rate, which if you look at the definition MSW, it is residential like materials, which includes household like materials. So the stuff that you generate in your house and commercial. So that's
basically
commercial
not
falls
industrial
in that
is what that means.
Not industrial. If you want to include any of those shingles or those good other things, which are also good programs, we've been recommending counties to also establish a diversion rate, which is different than an MSW recycling rate, which is clearly listed by law, residential and commercial. So that's that. And then it is true that it's whatever you have access to. There is that generation tool that we created on site to tell you like what you generate. If you don't know those numbers, if you do know the numbers, use your numbers. Like the generation tool was there to give you help to provide that if you had no idea. You could also input specifics if you knew some parts of your numbers that you from your own collection events or programs that you have, you can adjust those there. So that's what that tool was made for. And then the other numbers, like Emily mentioned, if you want to know numbers from a business, and you don't have access to it, make it a goal, like or a type of facility or that. Make those goals to get it. You just need to basically get a baseline number, and it doesn't matter what the number is, your recycling rate. It is just a number. It's telling us today, where are you at? And then all those little gaps that we've identified or you have identified through your planning process, make them a goal, and then try to achieve those goals by filling in those gaps.
All right. So now I want to go back to number 4, if you guys don't mind. And then is everyone a hard stop at 11:30? Or I only ask that because we have 2 more questions that I think are easier questions than the other ones have been. But I do want to do like essentially a wrap up. But I just want to verify for everyone. If it's a hard stop, then I can make it a hard stop. But if it's a gentle stop, I just want to verify.
I'm good to keep going.
Okay.
I'm able to stay here too. It's really, Tracy, are you able to continue?
Let me, yeah.
How gentle are we talking? We're talking like an hour,
no,
slide?
I'm thinking
like
at most
15,
another.
But because the problem is I want, like, if we're going to talk about next steps and where we go, like if there are people that have to drop, well, but here's my point. If there are people that have to drop off, if,
Yeah.
you know, if they want to hear that more than they want to get into, you know, more questions, you know, so that's.
No, I don't want to add more questions. I want to do a wrap up.
No, I
of
mean,
like,
oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think number 4 you mentioned, just real quick, we're developing a citing sheet. We're hoping to have a webinar on that to give template, and I did put that in the chat. So I think we should skip number 4 altogether, and we can talk about it at a different time once we have those resources. And then I'd rather do the follow-up to figure out how we want to handle things.
Yeah. Now I'm going to ask to make sure, are those DPAs okay with that are on board, knowing that there's going to be a webinar about that? Or do they want to hear discussion? I see a head shake. Or is there wanting, I see a thumbs up. Okay. I see a lot of thumbs up, so I will skip number 4 though, based on the numerous fact there's going to be a webinar. All right. So then I will skip number 4 based on consistency. And then we'll go into this one. So number 8 then. I didn't skip any other ones, I don't think. So data partnership. Number 7. Nope, number 7. The data partnership and distribution of statewide and regional facilities. Nope, number 7. Okay. I will try to summarize number 7 to make life easier for everyone. Essentially, it is, I'm going to summarize it to make life fast. Essentially, I think the summarization of this one is that everyone is collecting the same information in general, and EGLE has a lot of this data. Can we share it and have access to it? Again, it's the same essentially, as well as the fact that like some places are having retrack and there are opportunities to grow with these data sharing efforts in corporate statewide companies, such as the haulers and the retailers, and so that we can have a bigger pictures of the material management. And I think some of it is like the fact that you guys have retrack, and now that you have, some of it came with the idea, I think we kind of touched on this a little bit. So maybe this is more for another day discussion. But yeah, essentially we're all collecting the same data. Why, you know, is there a way to share it essentially? So maybe it's that kind of a discussion. If we're all collecting the same data, why isn't there like a platform that we can all use? Single pointed kind of discussion, I think, is what the discussion.
You mean like if you're collecting you know what I mean? Like if
like
Matthew's gone and he's gotten
like
cardboard,
Republic,
you know,
GFL,
Meyer cardboard. Oh, Republic
Meyer.
and GFL. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys could absolutely share data with each other.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah. I mean, I think if I can, you know, we will.
Go ahead.
We will be collecting data from facilities that are regulated, right? And we will share all of that information. And we will share all of that information, right? That's the information I was saying. We will, you know, this first round, we're going to get on our website, you know, early next year. Here's the reality though. Even though these facilities were required to get permits or registrations or whatever level, they didn't all do it, right? Like we don't, I mean, I don't know, Phil, you know, if you've got a better sense of where we are, like we don't have all of these facilities under permit yet. Like that has been a little bit of a struggle, right? And so we are not going to have a super complete data set for you, you know, but we're going to make available what we have. And when you look at that, you say, yeah, okay, but I know there's this place, you know, in my county, maybe you can supplement that with your efforts there. So I think our data set would be a good start. But you guys will know, well, hey, we have a, you know, this community has a contract and they send stuff to this facility that won't or didn't or will not be reporting to the state, but maybe you can get that data. So, I mean, how you then parse out, you know, what went to that facility from your community versus your neighboring community, like, you know, that might be where some data sharing and data scrubbing comes in. But we will certainly make anything available to you that we have. But I lean back on what Emily said before, like, this is not a perfect world of reporting. Like, there are a lot of gaps, right? The grocery stores that go directly to a broker with their cardboard, like, that's not getting reported, but that is really great diversion, right? So like this is not perfect data collection by any means, but our commitment is we'll share with you what we've got. And if as we go on, you guys are finding that you're collecting data that would be helpful to others, if there's a way that we can help facilitate shared information, we can figure that out.
Yeah.
Not to put too fine a point on it, but I can't wait to skim data from you guys. So
Yeah. I think I
yeah,
agree.
feel free to share
Yeah.
that data that you guys
Yeah.
get.
Yeah, I have an idea, but I think it's for another day. Like
Okay.
it's for discussion, I think, if I can talk to you guys as retract person, but for another day. Just thinking based on that question, how it was talked about, but going on to question number 8. This is a question I think Rachel kind of talked about. Enforcement responsibility guidance. Could EGLE clarify the enforcement responsibility for DPA and counties under Part 115? In many cases, ordinances are at municipality or state levels, meaning those governmental units have enforcement authorities. What level of responsibilities could counties ensure compliance in what county rules is supporting municipalities, especially with limited funding and resources? What enforcement responsibilities, if any, fall directly in counties and DPAs? In areas when municipalities do not manage waste in any fashion, what role does the county play? Are there resources, training, and guidance available to help counties support municipalities in this process?
This is a question that I would love to hear from you guys on. What do you think, for your areas, what is the role you guys see yourselves playing in enforcement in a way, like so do you think your plans will need enforcement to be successful? And what do you think that might look like? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Ryan?
Sure, I'll give you a current example. We have 3 communities in a township that fall under the adjusted census urban area standards, have 0 recycling. The township then falls under the 2028 standard. I have clear, just like verbatim from one of the municipalities, they are not going to start recycling until EGLE makes them. So because there's nothing outlined in the law other than, can the county demonstrate that it's meeting its requirements? There's no mechanism for me to go in and say, I can't force, like, there's nothing I can do to enforce that. It's the county
welcome
can do
to my
something
world,
to
Ryan.
right,
Welcome
so
to my world. This is the
yeah.
world that we live in all day long, right? We've got this goal. The legislature's holding it to us to it. And yes, I hear you that there are low-hanging fruit. There are people who are ready, and there are people who are not ready right now, right? That's a reality. So to you, I'd like to say, what do you see the role of enforcement for you in that situation?
I guess what would be helpful for us
Mhm.
is what would EGLE make the county's responsibility? Because foreseeably that the municipalities don't do anything, it would then fall on the county to implement an ordinance or the mechanical separation of waste from recycling, right? And then when would that fall? Like, does it, if I have a MMP and they haven't met their benchmark requirement when I turn it in 2027, will it not then become enforceable when you don't see progress and when it gets reviewed 5 years later?
So, and Theo, I don't know, jump in if you have if you've got good ideas for Ryan, or do you is this for the next thing?
I've got an idea.
Yeah.
So one of the things you can do, Ryan, is if you're not meeting your goals and, Christina and all the mighty power that she holds says we're going to hold you to account and you're not going to get your grant money anymore if you don't do XYZ or do something. One of the things that you could do is you could pass a hauler licensure ordinance at the county level. And because the benchmark standards don't require you to actually have recycling show up at somebody's door, it has to be accessible. you could require any hauler that's gonna service in your area that if they're gonna collect trash, they have to provide access to recycling. So they add it as another service and it has to be available. They set the pricing for that service. They might say it's $1,000 per tip, but technically you'd be meeting the requirements of the benchmark recycling standards. So it's kind of the low key, we're doing what we can, it meets the definition. There's probably other ways to actually get more than the minimum, but that's one option.
Yeah, that's Theo's come up with an option. I'd say alongside that, you might want to keep the door open, have these ongoing conversations. Like, what's the barrier for them? What is the barrier? Why are they
Right.
saying no?
My problem is, as a multi-county DPA too, is I see the lack of progress in one county affecting the approval of my entire regional plan, right? So there's no mechanism under our current agreements for me to suggest to a county to adopt a hauler licensing ordinance. I guarantee you that won't fly at all. So there's the only thing that comes in then is it threatens their approval of their plan, which then threatens the approval of my wider plan. But that's all theoretical and down the road.
Mm-hmm. So, and just to restate that whole hey, remember, it's your goal is not getting a stamp on this plan by EGLE, right? Your goal is to try to get, identify gaps and move toward that. We're going to work with you guys to find ways to get these, your plans approved. Christina is going to probably bust down in here and talk about one. If you want to have conversations about what are some absolute low bar minimum standards that we can just stroll over or some loophole workarounds, sure. But I encourage everyone to have, you know what I mean? Instead of thinking about what does EGLE want? How do I get that stamp from EGLE? How do I get the A++ on my assignment? This is really about more about hey, in terms of enforcement, what would be useful to us in terms of enforcement? Do we have that in place at the local and county level? Are there any steps that we could take toward getting that thing that we think would be super useful to us? Or, to your point, are there areas that are really resistant to, we've identified them as a gap. We care about that. What are their barriers and how can we, hey, EGLE, do you have any ideas about how we can, help these people move toward where we want them to go? Or what resources do we need? So just to kind of keep that in mind that yeah, I mean, I guess we could have conversations all day long about loopholes and low bars and all that, but and how to get your, how to meet that to get your stamp. But
so yeah,
go for it, Christina.
Can I interrupt? So just so we're clear, if you see 115A2 sub 2, I didn't say sub 2 in my message. If you do not meet the benchmark recycling standard, you're not eligible for the Recycling Access and Voluntary Participation Program. Doesn't say that you don't receive access towards your MMP grants, which is a different program. So that program doesn't even exist yet. Just so we're clear, that program's outlined in law and it's there to move us forward once plans are developed. And if you don't meet your benchmark recycling standard, at that point, then there's provisions in that subpart there that you need to look at, that you would need to do in order to be able to be eligible for that new grant program that's not established yet. Okay, so number one, understanding there's a difference between programs and that. Yes, you need to show progress towards meeting your goals in general, and showing progress does not mean you have to meet the goal. It says you need to show progress, and that's why it's so important that when you're doing your goals and objectives that you have a task list of things that you can show us. We've done this, 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 and this, and your goal may be to do one thing, and as you go through that process, it may be determined that that doesn't even make sense for your region or your planning area anymore. So number one, I just want to make sure that it's showing progress. I understand about some of the confusion or the angst about what happens when one county doesn't meet something and the other ones, is it going to hold us back? I think that overall, our intention as a department or agency is to make sure you have a plan, that you're trying to move forward on the plan, and we're not using it as a stick unless there's something that clearly is somebody's being negligent on. So I think we're all set with all that. But yeah, I will definitely look at. I did put a chat, in the chat, like overall some roles, DPAs. You really, whatever you put in your county plan, you're telling us which entity is responsible for doing what, and if you identify yourself as the enforcing body of your plan, then you'd be responsible. But it's probably going to be someone other than the DPA. So we can talk offline too, Ryan. And if we need a more in-depth conversation with the DPA group, maybe we can also have that conversation.
Perfect. All right. So then I am going to wrap up this question and then go on to the next one and do that, and then we'll wrap up completely. So the next one, a great one to wrap up on, is the last question, kind of similar to what Christina kind of brought up, is virtual and in-person training sessions on plan format. Would EGLE consider offering virtual and in-person sessions dedicated to discussing each section of the plan in more detail and answering DPA questions as they prepare the plan? Walking through the plan format document section by section would be very helpful. Offering these sessions when needed and prior to deadlines rather than after the fact would also be beneficial. While organizations like the MRC and DPA work group do a great job educating this network, it would be valuable to hear directly from EGLE about what is expected in the plan itself, not just what can be done, but what is required to be done. Additionally, having EGLE staff not just present at functions, but actively speaking up and participating in discussions would be greatly assist DPAs in their planning efforts. So essentially, some in-person section by section training sessions on the plan format.
I just wanted to jump in there and say, yes, we do have staff that are able to come out. If you have a meeting where you're going to need more guidance, we've got folks willing to be there. Yes, their role is they are not, a member of the public or on the committee. So they're probably going to take more of a listening role, but they're there, right? If you say, hey, we're really going to have questions on this, they'll make sure to come prepared to answer those questions. And sometimes they're just attending to listen and be there if you need them. I think, we've definitely got some education in the works. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from all of you on areas where you feel like you could use some more input. And I just want to, I know I sound like a broken record here, but remember, it's not like what EGLE wants to see out of this. We really, what we want to see is you guys sitting down and looking at, okay, maybe the template says goals. What does that mean to us, right? Like, what are the gaps? Recycling rate. What are, okay, what does that mean to us? Where's material going? Where are the gaps? This is really less about getting EGLE's stamp of approval and more about getting your communities together, to decide what type of things you want to do moving forward, and then getting their stamp of approval, right?
Yeah. So is that a no then? So the question
that
was,
is absolutely yes. We've got information. I've got notes on the information that you guys, a lot of you have spoken about needing more information on. We have plans definitely in the works to try to meet some of those, and some of those we'll go back at the end of this and talk more about.
For the training sessions about doing sessions about the actual plan format, like, so you started saying yes, you would do section by section on the plan format.
I don't know. I've got that written down, Kim. That's one that what you're talking about is like a pretty intensive thing. That's
what this question's asking.
Yeah,
so.
I'm not sure right now, Kim. I don't know the answer.
Hey,
The
Emily,
answer is I'm not sure right now.
Can I ask, is the need, what I want to try to figure out is the need here, and I'm reading number 9 compared to the other questions, is the need here for a discussion about format or a discussion about content, right? Because if what folks need help on are individual topic areas, right? Like, I think there's a really good conversation to be had about how do you incentivize communities to come along, right? Like Ryan's like, how do I get those people to come along? And is that enforcement or is that incentivizing them through infrastructure grants or whatever, right? So is what I want to understand before we leave today is, do you guys need help on content? Because what I think you're hearing from Emily is we are not here to be super prescriptive on what the plan looks like. We intentionally put out a fairly light format, like template, right? Like it was not our intention to be uber prescriptive on what this thing looks like versus the process we want you to go through and making a plan that's useful for you. So I think it would be my preference to ask Emily and her team to work with you guys on 1 through 8, right? And really diving into the meat versus what does the package look like. So, and maybe I'm thinking, maybe I'm over emphasizing the term format here in number 9, but I don't want folks to get hung up on like, do we have all the pieces and parts right versus like, does this get us where we need to go?
Yeah. See, and I think you're wrapping number 9 and what we're going to do overall, like the wrap up together. So this question's asking, I think, how I interpret because this is a combination of what. So this person and a couple other people are saying is they're trying to figure out how to complete the format and they're struggling how to, put things into the format. So that's where they're asking, hey, I'm struggling in putting the format together.
I think it's a Word document. It's is this question like, can I make it a PDF or like?
No, I think it's like filling it out essentially. I think that's how, like I said, I'm getting the DPA questions in and I'm putting them together. And so these are questions and maybe Jennifer.
Maybe they could get a hold of us directly if they have a.
Yeah. So go ahead,
Jennifer. If this
Jennifer.
is someone who has a specific question, maybe they could get a hold of us directly about it.
Yeah, so a lot of this is my when Kim put out a request for ideas, this was a lot of what I put in. And so the guidance that you provided, this plan format document, really goes through the entire plan. So it's very in-depth. It would take a very long time to go through all this. And we've done a lot of that today. And I think it's really just more guidance on each section, but really, I think what you're helping us do is translate like from the law and your guidance, like what is the expectation then for the DPA? What is, I get that it's, you say, and you've repeated it several times of, it's our plan and we're going to talk to our communities and really figure out what we plan. But like, I really think there's an expectation from EGLE that you want us to do better, and there is a certain level of like, we want you to do better in certain ways, or you know what I mean? Like you can do better in certain areas. And
so are you concerned that like you're gonna, I guess what I'm kind of hearing, and tell me if this is totally off base, you're worried you're gonna spend months and you're gonna turn it in and we're gonna be like, well, that's not good enough. Look what Washtenaw County is doing. You know what I mean? They've got, Theo's going personally to multifamily and picking it up and driving it away in his car.
But that could be like a deep-seated fear.
Yeah. So let's just say, this happens. This is something that we do in a concern that we see in grant, when people are applying for grants, that we get this concern, how could I ever get a grant when I'm up against, Washtenaw County or Emmett County or something? And so we really want to assure folks that, we're not comparing you all to each other. This really is about just trying to help meet you where you are, help you get the resources that you need, nurture your communities and nurture you where you are. So we're not going to be comparing your plan to other people and or your area to other areas and being like, well, they could definitely do better than that. You know, we would love to see folks putting real effort into this because let's be honest, could you just throw some stuff together? It's a worksheet. Could you just throw some answers on the worksheet and turn it in? Sure. But we'd love to see this be a more meaningful, a more meaningful thing. And the meaning doesn't come from us. The meaning comes solely from your communities coming together and deciding together, like, hey, we really do want to work on whatever it is. And it's not to say that we don't care what that is, but we only care in so much as it's what you guys want, right? And it's the progress that you want to see. Does that help at all?
Yeah, that's perfect. I'll just look forward to additional trainings. I think
And we're happy to send someone to a meeting or, you know, I don't know where you're located. Is Tracy, are you up in the UP?
yeah, with Tracy.
Okay. I'm sure Tracy comes to the UP every once in a while. If you want to go out to lunch with her maybe, or, you know, have a Zoom session with us and be like, man, there is this one section that like, I don't even know what this means. Like, can you just put this in like normal human language for me? You know, I'm sure we'd be happy to have those conversations.
All right. Yep. Thank you.
All right. So now what I want to do is kind of wrap everything up and kind of like, you know, we've gone through the questions and then kind of figure out what's takeaway, what's, you know, the big ask, you know, so how can we get like a solution? You know, we asked all these questions, kind of brainstorm a takeaway. So, did we answer the questions? You know, there's answering it and then there's answering it, you know. So, because you can answer it and then say, yeah, you answered it, but you didn't really answer it, you know. So, I mean, kind of, you know, to be frankly honest, kind of, you know. So, and if we didn't, you know, what can we do to truly answer it? You know, do we do more meetings? Do we do more sessions, or how can we actually help each other? Whether it's us helping you, you helping us, you know, is it something, you know? I try to be honest. I like to be an honest person. You know, I try to get solutions. So what can we do to help each other out, get solutions so that the DPAs feel like that we can do our jobs the best and then we can move forward. Because that's why I'm talking to you guys is, I mean, it's kind of selfish to be honest. I started this so that I can do my job. I mean, I was getting frustrated that I couldn't move forward. So, and I think I need to do my job by helping each other, and that's why we're doing this. So, I got a lot out of this. So, I think it sounded like from what I heard from everyone, some more question and answerings, perhaps on each question would be helpful. That's what I heard and got out of it. Did anyone hear something different? Would that be helpful? That's what I got, especially the grant one.
Hey, Kim, could I ask, and I'll ask Kim, Emily and Christina to jump in and give their part too, but I think what would be helpful to us is some feedback in a prioritized way, you know, maybe based on your timelines or the complexity of a given topic. What are the topics you want to see guidance on, like ASAP? Right? Like, oh my gosh, if we don't have a webinar on how this grant process works before the new year, like, you know, we're going to really be in a tough spot versus, yeah, we can't wait for that citing document to come out. Like if maybe if you guys want to get together after this and say, okay, these are the questions we put forward. This is what we heard. Could you get back to EGLE and say, we would love, you know, and not so much like this sort of Q&A style, but like topic wise, like we would love a webinar or like a Zoom session Q&A on this one topic. We would like FAQ, you know, written on this, and like maybe sort of prioritize it for us. Because I mean, I'll tell you what, like even aside from this, if Christina had an army, there's 100 things I know she wants to put out in the world, right? So, you know, we really do need to kind of prioritize so that we're giving you guys the things you need when you need it. And I know the answer to all of that is like 6 months ago. Of course it is, right? But like, what can we do now? Right? Like what is the most urgent and what is the most complicated, right? And maybe if you could prioritize it for us.
Yeah. And this could be spoken from just me. I have heard others say it. Not most people, from what I've heard, webinars aren't as helpful because it's not interactive. It's essentially being spoon-fed your thoughts of what's important versus necessary. And that's what I've heard. And I could be mistaken because there's no interaction. There's not as interactive. That's what I've heard. Whereas, maybe a presentation versus a webinar type thing, like if it was more of a, here's some slides of information discussion, more like a presentation versus a webinar. I'm trying to figure out how to say it. If anyone else here,
I think I hear you, Kim.
The other DPAs are here too. Speak up.
Or like, so maybe what I'm almost hearing is like a webinar with a fair amount of time,
like a robust Q&A.
A robust Q&A, time afterwards.
And that's what I was actually envisioning when I said what I wasn't I didn't mean like recorded webinar that you can push play. I meant like have a session, right? Today's session is on navigating the grant process, and we present for 25 minutes, and then we do Q&A for 45 minutes.
And you'll have to forgive us if we do record it. I know Tracy was like,
for sure.
Because
that's why this is recorded too.
Well, then 50% of the people will be like, but we can't be there that day. So
record for sure. That's always important. Yeah. Go ahead, Whitney.
I was just going to mention that I do like the recordings though, because then you can refer back to them. Like, the FSR and grant recording was out a few months ago, and then I looked at it and I was like, oh, I don't remember any of it. So then you go back and watch it, which is helpful because then you're getting information again.
Oh, for sure. No, I didn't mean to imply that we wouldn't record it, but just that it wouldn't be like what Kim's talking about, this one way delivery.
I think what we're hearing is there's a lot of different. Some people love to listen to somebody. Some people really like the Socratic method. Some people want it written. Some people want things sort of in a summary, like a high level, like condensed summary. Some people just want the details fire hose. So like, I just want to acknowledge that like everyone has different needs, and all you can count on is that we're definitely gonna not get it right. We're gonna try to meet everybody's needs, but know that we're gonna fall short, right? So yeah, I would love to hear maybe like a prioritized list would be helpful, right? And if there's specific delivery methods that work for you guys personally, that's good to know, but also like, I just want to acknowledge that like, as many of you say one thing, there'll be that many people saying the opposite. So like, sometimes we got to pick the one that just we can do the most easily and go with it.
Yeah, like that's even why like this, after this, I'm going to try to, even though I have a lot of things to do as well, I'm still trying to do, like, I'm going to try to summarize this and share it with the group too, because that's what we can do. I'm trying to help everyone as well. So I get what you're saying too. So topics for you would like request us topics and prioritize it and get it back to you.
Yeah, and if you could, try to, and I think this will be natural in the prioritization process, right? Like try to figure out like, if some of this is best served by an hour-long meeting between Jennifer and Tracy versus like, something that's more, and I didn't mean to pick on you there, Jennifer, but you're like in my line of sight. But like, something like broad applicability, right? Like, and we'll consider that when we're trying to figure out delivery mechanism as well, right?
With the understanding that I personally cannot attend every meeting and do that. So there's just one of me in the state at this point for doing that's fully planning related.
We're parachuting her into every meeting. We're just going to fly her around, parachute her in. You're going to have to shoot her back up and we'll grab her and go.
We'll just leave it at that. So, but yes, I don't have the capacity to do that. So if you, one-on-ones would need to be recycling team, their expertise is recycling and mechanisms, And any planning related thing, we would need to do it more general or a more general meeting format.
Mhm. And as other DPAs, I mean, is there other wants that you guys have from EGLE? This is, or what did we get from this, the questions and discussions? Did you feel any closure? Did you feel like it brought up anything else? Or like, this is where we're wrapping up. So this is your chance to say, hey, yeah, we got this, was this, do you feel like this is our wrap up? So it's their chance to say, yes, we should do this from this, or we got the answers we needed, or, another thing I thought from this is our DPA work group that maybe, I'll bring this back to the summary and maybe we can do some individual areas on this too.
I think it's really helpful to talk, and I appreciate everyone, coordinating it, everyone from EGLE, giving information updates. I'm still way behind on grant stuff, so I just need to dig into that. So I don't have any questions that are relevant to that. But it is helpful to have the conversation, and thanks for everyone's time. I think it's important that we're communicating, and this is helpful. So thanks.
Yeah. I do think it makes us feel heard that, you guys took the time to listen to us and reviewed this, and that you guys are willing to give us that, go through these questions again and create that worksheet, like you said, about like the definitions, and that would be really helpful. Yeah, especially with the facility, the materials management facility. That would be really helpful.
Hey, Kim, one more question. Can you make the chat available?
Yes, yeah. So like, I guess that's a good wrap up. I'm gonna go through.
Thank you.
And me and Trista, she's the one that's the silent partner of mine that's gonna taking notes and stuff. I'm gonna try to wrap this up, summarize it, make notes. The video will be available. I'll post that in the listserv and I'll send it to EGLE as well, obviously, as well as the notes, so that both EGLE and us DPAs have it to do with whatever they want, whether EGLE wants to summarize it, we want to summarize it, so everyone has it, take notes, do as they wish. So, and learn from it on both ends. So that's my goal. So everyone can learn, because learning is great. So,
Well,
but
thanks
yeah,
everyone. I hope you guys have a good weekend wherever you are, and we'll be talking.
yeah.
You know where to
And
find us if you want to have a, one-on-one chat. You can always call us on the phone, right?
Yep. And I'll definitely summarize, make sure it's clear the ask from both sides too. So y'all have that understanding. So I
Okay.
appreciate everyone. Thank you so much for everything.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye,
thanks for the
thanks,
time today,
everyone.
guys. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.